thank you for being here. It's a beautiful evening, and having you here interested in the bond is great. I'd like to welcome our architects, our lead person, our consultant. I would just like to compliment the professionalism of our architects, the time that they take to come to meetings weekly, to take minutes, to provide us with as much information as possible. They've been a pleasure to work with from the get-go, and that's going to make a big difference in the final analysis. So thank you, architects. I appreciate you being here tonight, and I know that you might be doing this a few more times down the road, and we're grateful for that. You know, making sure that our community is aware of the impact of the bond and where we are in terms of the process, I think builds credibility in the long run and in the short term. So, as I've mentioned many times before, keeping the community aware of what we're doing and what's happening in relation to the bond is a very important part of this process. You know, if you really think about it, the fact that we're here talking about a $65 million bond that our community passed is really something. It's very special. If the opposite happened, obviously we would not be talking about improving our schools to meet the needs of our students in the 21st century. And right along with improving our facilities, and you know, we've got $65 million. In this day and age, that's not a lot of money, believe it or not, to do the things that we want to do. But with the help of the architects and with the assistance of our staff, we're going to maximize that $65 million every chance we get to make sure that we are moving our schools into the 21st century for the benefit of our students. So we're also right along with that, not only improving the facilities, we're taking a good hard look at the instructional program, and starting in August, we're going to be putting a committee together that's going to take a look at every grade level in terms of what teachers are teaching and what students should be learning at the end of each grade level. And we're making this happen starting in August, and it's an important part of our transformation. As you know, we're moving from K-5 to K-4 elementaries. We're moving to, we're moving to 6, 7, and 7, 8, or excuse me, again. We're moving from K-5 to K-4 elementaries, 5, 6, 7, 8 intermediate schools, and then moving our ninth graders to the high school, which is very significant. And as I've mentioned before, that's where 98% of ninth graders are attending school in the state of Washington. So we have a huge reason to be happy and thankful to our community in terms of passing this great bond issue. So on that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Feeney, our lead architect and consultant.
Thank you. Just as a precursor, because we're fighting the sun and the glare, if you want to move closer, you might be able to see some of the finer print on the slides. So take the opportunity to move up if you want. We don't really light. See if we can do this. Okay. First thing. Tonight we're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff very fast, but it's an opportunity to bring the community up to speed as to where we are. We got the welcome from Dr. Apostle. We're going to go through the introduction to the teams, and we're going to review the bond and how we got here. We're going to have an update on our bond sales. Brenda's going to do that. And then we're going to walk through all of our packages, A, B, and C, which are all the schools, and talk about where we are. And we're kind of at the concept stage. And then hopefully we're going to have ample time for any of your questions. So first, what I'd like to do is introduce the three architectural teams that are here tonight. And we're going to, on the Shelton High School project and the Oakland Bay Junior High School is NAC or NAC Architecture, represented by Mr. Kevin Flanagan. On package B, which is Mountain View, the new elementary school, and renovations to Olympic, is Erickson McGovern and Steve Storrs. I always get your name wrong. It's Storsley, I know, and I know it's stop. I always want to put an extra syllable on that, Steve. I don't know why. So he's here, and I believe you were the designers of this building. Is that correct?
I was the lead on it, not the designer.
Okay, so he has a little familiarity with this site, so that's good continuity. And the third package, which is some work at Choice High School along with Evergreen and Bordeaux, is MSGS Architects out of Olympia and represented by their lead principal, Bill Sloan. So those are our architects tonight. I think the first thing that we wanted to do, we talked about, is to quickly go through and talk about, just as a reminder to everyone, what we're really doing in this bond. So we're going to go quickly through it. You know, at Bordeaux, we're really looking at doing the biggest task is to provide a covered walkway from the portables back to the school so the kids don't get totally drenched walking from all the portables back to get into school. The boilers and some other things. And we're going to talk about later on when Mr. Sloan gets up here about we're adding security vestibules to all the schools, which is really, really important, and we'll talk about that. At Evergreen, the things we're going to look at again is replacing possibly 2 of the portables. We're going to talk about that. Instead of replacing them, we may remodel them to save some money, but that's something we're going to do. We're going to add a lot of technology, and again, we're going to add a new security vestibule. Oakland Bay and Olympic Middle School, combination of things. I think the big thing here at Olympic is we're going to do a lot of work on the roof. There may have been some leaks in the past. I want to make sure that we get the roof on this building, along with the new vestibule. You've kind of got a vestibule right here, but you don't have locks on the interior doors, so that'll be redone, and pretty soon we'll have this school secure so we can really protect the kids. Oakland Bay, again, ADA entrances, paint the school, replace boilers and the cooling tower, paint the exterior of the school, and a few other things. It's going to be a significant renovation there. Mountain View, one of the 2 big projects, and you'll get to see a lot of development tonight. Essentially, we're replacing and providing a new elementary school, and we'll talk about that in more detail. That right now is somewhere around 50 to 51,000 square feet. I think the old building, less play sheds and everything, was about 46, 47, somewhere around there. So it's going to be slightly bigger in floor plan than what you had previously. And then at the high school, as you remember, putting the 9th grade in, we have to get some more classrooms. And we're going to put in an addition to build new classrooms. We need to come up with at least 14 more classrooms to get that 9th grade in, right, Jennifer? We've been working on that to get it all done. Plus, there's going to be other things. We're going to paint some of the exterior trim and things around all the buildings. The good thing is we'll put a new roof on the sub, which I think it needs. And we're going to replace all the windows with operable windows at Shelton High School for all the other pods. So I think that'll be a great asset. So quickly, that's what's done. Dr. Apostle talked about the reconfiguration and why we're doing that. And I think that's really important. With that, where we are on schedule, we're in the phase called educational specifications. And what does that mean? The educational specifications really are about putting together goals and ideas and how is this going to work for our delivery of education to the students. You know, what kind of environment do we want? What is our vision? And with that, we develop space allocation. We talk, how we're going to put it together, what are the adjacencies. And these become the guidelines for the design. And that's where we're at. So what we have right now is, for the August 8th school board meeting, the design specifications, or I should say the educational specifications, will be submitted for their approval. These are the drafts. They're not complete yet, but we're working on those. And these are going to be the documents where the collaboration between staff, teachers, principals, the district staff, we actually get in and put together exactly how all of this should be working for us as we proceed to design the new schools. I think this process is one of starting out with, 10 or 15,000 square feet or feet above the earth with what do we want? And then we figure out what can we afford, but that's the next step. And the purpose of EdSpecs is really to talk about all the issues and then try and figure out how it works best for the school. And thank Andrea for this slide because I think it's a perfect portrayal of what EdSpecs are about. Is everything comes together, and this is what we think the perfect way to handle this building is and how the educational system is going to work, and it's going to be something like that. Okay. Yeah. It's pure and simple, and all the architects know exactly what that is. You're correct. From there, we're going to take this stuff that we put together in these documents and start to turn it into concepts. And so tonight, that's what's important. So at this time, I want to turn over to NAC, or NAC Architecture. Kevin, come on up here and we'll talk about Shelton High School. And there's a laser pointer.
As we've gotten started working on Shelton High School, we worked closely with a lot of the staff and some of the students there to, as Jeff said, as we're going through the educational specification process, think about what the needs are and how the addition can best focus as far as on meeting the needs. And in particular, as far as obviously recognizing that with bringing the 9th grade onto the campus, what does that mean? And the different type of support that's needed for those, the expanded enrollment that comes with the added 9th graders, and the way as far as that with those 9th graders being there per the state standards, they have to meet high school expectations. By bringing them to the high school, this gives them the opportunity to have the best facilities around to help support their high school careers they get going. And then also as part of this project, the 500 and 600, oh, I knew I'd hit the wrong button. The 506 buildings in the back there are considered by the FAA to be too close to the airport, and so they need to be vacated from regular educational use. And so again, those are thinking about what is the needs for the addition that goes on there. And then with the addition, there's the opportunity in the Clymer Square makes a great place as far as where that addition could go, because things we've also heard is to want to create a new front door for the school. And so it's a chance to have a good front door and help improve the sort of the security, the supervision, and the arrival at the school. And then also with the auxiliary gym would be another portion that's needed with the addition. And so locating that in between the tennis courts that's there, and so keeping the tennis courts that have been replaced, but nestling the addition into that spot along there. And so as we've gotten into this process, then we've worked with the school and the students to explore a lot of different options. We gave the staff blocks to work with that represented different program pieces. And so when we think about the adjacencies and what needs to be next to what, we really put the tools in the hands of the students and the teachers to start to explore those options. And they came up with a lot of different ideas and what might work. And then with that, then as architects, then we started to explore a lot of different ideas on how to put these pieces together and how to fit it onto the site. And with that, brought back these ideas and studied them with the school and the staff to see what's working better, what isn't working, and start to refine and explore different ways to make it work. And what we saw is that there's sort of this this quilt in a way that's on that campus. As far as a building and some open spaces, there's some wonderful green spaces and some buildings, and it's thinking about how we can create a new addition that's part of this campus and part of this network of connections that are going on through there. And what we saw is in Clymer Square, there's certain things that we wanted to respect. Now let's see if I can make, oh no, I can't make that laser work at all. Am I able to get back to where I was?
The left arrow should be.
Left arrow? Yeah, I've just completely bungled the whole thing. So I'll just say as far as what we recognize is getting to the place where we can have an addition, but we don't want to build it right up next to the existing buildings where by then we no longer have windows and can't look out anymore. And we also wanted to get to a place where we didn't want to push the addition where it went off beyond the curb line where the drives come through. Because now we're going to be spending a lot, that would cause us to spend a lot more money reworking roadways. So we wanted to be as efficient and effective with the use of funds in order to maximize what we can get for the educational needs. And so what that drove us to do is we really wanted to make this a little bit smaller footprint in order to get all of those pieces in there. And that started to go from a 2-story building to then a 3-story building in order to really maximize the use as far as, again, of funds to meet the educational needs. And then as we looked at that bar along the front, we thought about how it needs to sort of have some openings to create some connections through there, and then how those bars start to slide in order to, again, maximize the use of the space in order to create a bit of a courtyard area, but also maximize the school space that we can have in there. And creating a courtyard for some open areas, again, to create natural areas for natural light getting into those spaces. And then with that, the design that started to resonate the most with the school, with the committee as we went through, was one that started to look a bit like this, that had administration sort of in the front right, and that was closest to where the Performing Arts Center is. Create sort of a front, a little entry plaza sort of space, if you will, to come into the building, but also creates good monitoring of what's going on with the campus as people are coming through, maybe going to the performing arts if it's after school, or otherwise just getting onto the campus. So creating a spot of good supervision. The courtyard here is off the sub, and so again, having a nice place as far as for daylight and for and when the kids eat lunch on nice days, they can extend out onto the area, which is sort of, shall we say, a modified Clymer Square area that still exists in that. And then also then creating spaces for all the different programs that might go in there with the art, and then also then on the second floor and third floor, science rooms, classrooms, resource rooms, the other spaces that are needed for the high school edition. So that's kind of the gist of what would be going on in the academic area, and then also then going to the auxiliary gym, looking for a space again, trying to make sure that it can fit into the space between the tennis courts, again to reduce costs, maximize the investment that's already down there, and the investment that will go into the new building. To get an auxiliary gym, but then also then would have a foyer, restrooms and storage space to support the PE programs as well as the athletic programs that would occur in the auxiliary gym. So that's just a brief overview of what will happen at the high school. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention schedule. And that's as far as, so we've just been completing the PEs there for pre-design, the ed spec process as Jeff has described. And from that, we're moving into schematic design, which means as far as coming from 20,000 feet down to maybe 12,000 feet to get a little bit more clarity, get a little bit more meat on the bone, as it would be with the building, so that we're able to get, again, more accurate cost information as we start to dial all of this in, and also get some more response on the educational needs, so that at the end of that process, schematic design is when we return, when school returns, and we're able to meet again with the school and the committees to start getting more detail into all of the spaces. From that, we get into more technical drawings that will lead to the permitting in order to allow us to go to bid for this in next spring in 2018. Construction start then at the end of the school year, at the end of 2018, to allow construction to occur in the areas of the addition basically for 1 year, so that at the following school year, 2020, is when, I guess, 2019, sorry, we'll be moving into the new school.
Excuse me, I do have a
Yep.
question. You're talking about a 3-story structure. And what you displayed was the first floor, correct?
Yes, the second and third floor were on the right-hand side there, just stacking up, yes.
We can take them at the end and we go through the programs, but we'll give you time for all the questions you want. Okay, thank you, Kevin. Next, we want to go on to Mountain View Elementary. So I'm going to bring up Steve Storsley and have him walk you through what's going on over there, and we'll let you take it from there. Yes.
expert at this, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Don't hit the self-destruct button.
Okay. Eric's McGovern, we are the ones doing Mountain View. The planning process started back in March. We had a kickoff meeting with George and his staff, the whole staff in the room, a few district level people to talk about the grand vision of this. Maybe it was the 50,000 foot level look at it, but what their vision is, what they would like to see. Following that, we had several follow-up meetings where we met with individual staff, individual groupings of staff, the different grade levels, the special services, food service people, things like that, to get their input, what they would like to see in this project. And part of this also is the Early Learning Center there, the octagonal building. That is a project that needs to have some renovation to bring it up to code to kind of add to their learning experience over there. But through this process, we found that the old existing Mountain View was built quite a while ago when a lot of these programs weren't in existence at the time. But we found that there was many special service programs that were taking place in hallways, sharing spaces, taking place in portables, and all these things were important spaces that we needed to find real space for. So besides the normal classrooms and the gym and the cafeteria, things like that, we had a lot of other areas we had to work with. But we're also building a brand new school on a site with an existing school. See right here, this is just a floor plan where we see the existing building. We see the octagonal building for vertical learning. There's some play sheds on the site, a couple of play sheds, one detached part of the school. We have a parking lot that is existing. It's a fairly new parking lot that we would like to save. The more things we can save and reuse, the better it is for our costs on this. We also have the main road across here where we access the site. All these things are kind of components that we want to be able to look at and use besides just building the school on the site, but how that fits with all these things. How we can build a new school on the site and allow the existing school to be in operation. All that relationship kind of comes into play when we're thinking about the school and how it lays out. So obviously, I think when you look at a school site, especially in elementary, everybody thinks a one-story school is the best way to continue with this and to provide a plan. So we started with looking at all the elements that we want to put in the school, the number of classrooms, the special service areas, the gymnasium and a cafeteria, administration, and how that might lay out, in a single-story plan. And so this is a plan that is a single story. Obviously, with the single story, there's a bigger footprint of what that is. When we start out too, we just take whatever we have been given by the staff and try to put it into a plan. So it might be a lot bigger than what needs to be, but it includes all the areas that need to be there. We also looked at, say, if we do a two-story school, it's a smaller footprint, how that might look in a plan and how that might fit on the site. But this was a smaller footprint. We had a wing of classrooms, another wing of classrooms over here, administration up front, cafeteria, gymnasium, and music, things like that over there. So this was the lower floor. Upper floor, we would continue with the wing of classrooms kind of above the other ones. Library above the administration area. Again, this was a two-story concept. We find those being used more and more these days. But with a site that we have, the constraints we have, we felt that it's worth looking at both options. So here, just kind of a brief site plan showing the single-story plant footprint. The existing school, the bulk of the existing school of Mountain View is going to remain in place there. Its exact use is kind of unknown right now, but with the valuable space, for potential use, it's best to leave it there. Some of the elements around there, the older play shed, that little detached part up front, those will be demolished and taken out. The portables will be moved off-site. But here you can see a single-story school, existing parking lot, kind of creating a new parent drop-off. I think that's one thing we find on the side of people dropping off kids at school. They back up onto the road, so creating a better parent drop-off is one thing on that. So this was, that doesn't show the whole site, but it does take up a little bit more area. Here was a two-story concept, again on the same site. You can see how much more free area is on the site with being left over for play fields, things like that. They're also necessary for the learning experience. But looking at these elements and looking at the options, it just became clear, and I think with George's backing, we decided that the two-story option was the way we were going to go. And so we kind of concentrated on that and proceeded. So then we kind of refined the plan further with that. As you can see, again, it's kind of the same shape, the two-story plan. But now we're looking at a little bit more detail on all these classrooms and how many classrooms we actually need. We are moving the 5th grade out of the Mountain View. They're moved into this school. But we still have a lot of programs that again, are occurring in corridors and closets and things like that. So there is more space to include all those activities. We're also have the gymnasium and a cafeteria are separate elements so that you can have the lunch and have gym class at the same time. Here is this, again, a kind of a rough site plan of how it's sitting on there. We have the existing parking lot. We're expanding a little bit here, creating a little bit more of a parent drop-off. The existing parent drop-off will stay and just extend a little bit farther up there. We are separating the buses by bringing the bus loop over here. So they would be on the back side of the school, be able to enter through the gymnasium or the cafeteria and enter the school on that side. We've also, again, we've talked to the early learning people. That is a very old building. There's a lot of issues with heating and ventilating and the ADA codes for the bathrooms, and so there will be some renovations on that make those spaces a little bit bigger. But they also want to consolidate, I think, the district's overall early learning onto this site. Some of it occurs at Evergreen now, and so we're also looking at bringing a couple of portables or moving some of the portables on this site over to serve the early learning element. They'll be remodeled to add water and bathrooms in those to make them used for expand the early learning on this site. Our schedule is too small for me to read it. I got my own cheat sheet here. But again, we're in the inspect, the planning phase. We'll be shifting right into we call it schematic design, where we refine it further. But overall, I think it looks like we plan to submit for permit about February of next year, and have a plan review time, put it out to bid in early April, and start construction right when the school gets out. But again, this is a situation where we'll build a new school on this site, and the existing school will take place. So there's a lot of elements that need to be reviewed with that, and make sure that everybody's safe and contractors can do their job and the kids can learn and have a smooth transition. So the final completion of June of 2019, where we'll be able to get all the new the teachers into the new school and get acclimated to it, and let the kids come in September. No questions till later.
Thanks, Steve. I was really surprised that both the high school and the elementary school are starting to develop some unique concepts about open space and how it's going to be used to create a more free-flowing, every space is an opportunity for educational teaching, and how that's going to work. And maybe later on we can talk a little bit more about that. But I know that I don't want to spoil anything, but I know that Principal Nelson is really excited about what's going to happen right here, because this is planned to be two-story open all the way up through here. This is the new library. So from the ground, you can look up into the library. This is going to be the STEM resource space. There's potential of a bridge there going across. So all of a sudden, this elementary school is going to walk into something that's new and different, and it's really going to open up that. And I think you're going to see the same things in the high school floor plan with lots of open space. So I just didn't want to spoil it, but I thought I'd just tease you. Next, Bill Sloan, talk about Bordeaux, Evergreen, and Choice.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello? Our scope is a little bit smaller. We're fixing some of the issues in different schools around the edges. And we're working in We're working in Bordeaux and Evergreen and Choice, and some of our work is going to start right away. The boilers in Bordeaux need to be replaced, and the cooling tower at Choice needs to be replaced, and the cooling tower at Oakland Bay Junior High needs to be replaced. We're actually going to put that work out to bid in September, just in a couple of months, and we're going to have that work start during Christmas break. The boilers in Bordeaux are going to be replaced before the kids come back. And then the cooling towers, that's for air conditioning, they'll take a little bit longer, but there's no need to cool the buildings in January and February. So we'll get that mechanical work done early. As far as the work in the elementary schools in Choice, we all know that students learn best when they feel safe and secure, and the environment has to be safe and secure, and that's part of what the bond's about, is to make these schools that way. Physical security is one type of security. Electronic security with cameras is another type of security. But one of the aspects about elementary schools in today's world is that sometimes you have to control who comes into the building. And so what we are going to be doing at Bordeaux and Choice and Evergreen is to create a vestibule. This is the entrance to Bordeaux. Those doors exist. Oh, this is Evergreen. These are the entrance to Evergreen. And right now there's a counter here where you can talk to people in the office. What we're going to do is we're going to add doors over here that are going to be on electronic locks, so that if somebody in the office sees a person coming into the school that they feel should not be in the school, these doors will close and they'll lock. And the person will be actually in this little vestibule and can't go anywhere. Now, if it turns out that person is a perfectly normal person and they want to talk to somebody, then they can come in. They can come into the office, they can check in, and they go out through this door. We're doing the same thing at Bordeaux. Here's the entrance to Bordeaux. There's a window here right now. We're going to put some doors across the hallway here before you enter the main hallway of Bordeaux, and these doors will be on electronic locks, which if the people in the office feel like the person coming into the school is not the right kind of person, these doors lock, and the person really needs to leave the building. Choice is a much older school. We're exploring some possibilities as to how to create a secure vestibule here. We have an entrance into the auditorium here that gets a little bit, there's 3 sets of double doors there. We're thinking about putting doors here, putting a check-in window right here, and having some doors here that control. We really haven't had a chance to talk to Stacy, the principal at Choice yet, about this, but our intent is to make a physical security vestibule there as well. We are also going to create a woodworking shop on the auditorium of the stage at Choice, and this is for a program that already exists. The woodworking shop's already in that space, but it's a kind of a makeshift environment, and there's no exhaust of the wood sawdust and whatnot, and it's not a very safe, the equipment's not very safe, so we want to improve that. Another aspect of the work we're doing is to look at how to handle the many portables in the Evergreen playground. Right now, we have Choice High School here. This is Evergreen here. The special needs portable here is one of the oldest portables that the district owns and really is falling apart and needs to be replaced. This concrete block storage building used to be the back of the old Brown Gym, and that Brown Gym's been gone about 15 years, and we're going to demo this building. It's just going to go away. The existing portables that are here are currently being used by Evergreen Elementary, and also the one on the left is Early Learning Program. We have some ideas about what to do with these portables. We haven't talked extensively with the principals of, with Adina, the principal of Evergreen, and we still need to do that. But we do recognize the need for improving the quality of the child care building for the Choice High School. And so this building, which is a 30-year-old portable, we're going to have that removed from the site. And we're going to have this portable here possibly removed from the site. This portable is in pretty good shape. It can stay, and we think this portable can stay also. We're going to build a little lean-to against Choice High School here for the woodworking shop, and because we're doing that, the emergency vehicle access has to come through here. We have to carve away a little bit of this landscape here. We may also create a better bus drop-off zone here. This is all very preliminary, but possibly this is the addition to Choice for the woodworking shop. This is a possible loop for school buses. We're suggesting that the Choice High School child care program could go here with a playground between, and then early childhood learning portable here, and then 2 additional brand new Evergreen Elementary portables. Very much up in the air until we really get down with Adina and talk to her about her needs. But this work is going to happen kind of with the same schedule that Steve talked about. We're going to bid this work in about February, March of 2018, and everything will be, actually we believe this work can be ready for the academic year of September of 2018, because it's not nearly as expensive as the high school or the Mountain View Elementary School. That's it.
Just as a point, it got skipped over, but also at the main entrance of Choice High School, we are going to put in a fully compliant ADA entrance on the outside. So what you're seeing there will be a ramp that will be put in so that anyone can access this building, and it'll be the first time, I think, in its history that it will be somewhat ADA compliant. So that's a good step. Next, I'd like to kind of talk about a couple of things that are important. And I think the first one is money. And so I'd like Brenda Trogstad to come up and tell you what's going on the bond and where we stand on this project financially.
Good evening. It's great to see such a big crowd here. This is awesome. On June 7th, Carrie Davidson, our board president, and I had the pleasure of traveling to Seattle to sell our bonds. When we headed there, we thought we were going to do 2 bond sales because the market hadn't been what we were hoping for. When we arrived, we were told we were going to sell all of the bonds that day. The market was in prime spot to do it, so we sold all 65 million bonds. We also refunded our 2006 bond and ended up with an 8% savings for the taxpayers, so we were able to shift that savings over to the new bond. And we actually ended up coming in with a lower rate per thousand than what we advertised to our taxpayers. The initial rate we were advertising for the years 2018 through 2021 was going to be $3.56 per thousand. We're coming in at $3.52 per thousand at our current assessed valuation. And then in 2022, when our old bonds pay off, we were advertising $2.75 per thousand. We're actually coming in at $2.60 per thousand. So we have a 15-cent per thousand savings for that remaining period. That we are anticipating assessed valuation is picking up in the county. So hopefully those rates will continue to drop for the taxpayers. But it was a very successful bond sale, and the $65 million is in our bank account. And actually on Monday, we'll be making our first payments towards some of the things that have been going on out of capital projects fund. So thank you, that's all I have. That was great.
Now if we can just keep that money in the bank all the way to the end. Right? There's a couple of things. A question was asked earlier, and if you brought it up, as to, you know, everybody's always interested as things start, where are we on budget? I think we would say that if we look at the high school project, we're probably 15% done, you know, figuring something like that. I think, Steve, we're coming close to that on Mountain View. It's about there, and you're probably way ahead of 15% on some of your stuff on the others. 50%. Yeah. Currently, we've spent roughly $265,000 of our $64.778 million, which calculates out to be about 0.004%. So right now, we're looking very good. We're accomplishing a lot of work and very efficiently, because, as you know, if we don't have all these schools open and functioning on September of 2019, we've got a big problem in the Shelton School District. So I'd like to thank a couple of people. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for several people, and I mention it. Dr. Apostle told me a few days ago, he said, I didn't think we would be here at this level at this time. And he reminded me that I told him a year or so ago, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. And I think he's believing it, we're going to make it. Now it's coming in. But it's due to the staff, it's due to the principals, it's due to your leadership teams, it's due to the teachers, and it's due to this community. Because without their help and their support to get into the ed specs and make the meetings and take time out of their day and work with the architects, we wouldn't be here. That is the critical element that is really needed to make these projects fly. And so what I want you to do is applaud not only yourselves, but this district and all the teachers and staff, because they're the ones that are making this happen. So that's it. With that, do we have anything else, Andrew? No. With that, we're going to open up to questions, and we can move slides back if there's anything specific that you want, and we'll go from there. So, first questions?
You get that one, I get this one.
I'll take this one. Thank you.
Good question.
Well, I'm excited about all the plans, but I haven't been on the planning part of this, so I'm very curious from the people who have planned, why are we looking at two-story buildings? We're in a rural area where we do have property, but there must be some pros and cons. So for many of the people on the planning committee and the reasons, there must be many reasons why we decided on two-story buildings?
Yes, and Steve, you want to take that from Mountain View?
Well, you're right. I think the old rule of thumb is that a one-story school is the way to go. But when you talk specifically about an elementary school, normally you'd like to have a site that is about 10 acres in size, and that takes a school, that takes a bus loop, the parking lot, the play fields, all that amenities that you need for a school to operate. Nowadays, we're getting more and more concerned with stormwater. And so we have detention ponds that take up part of the site. We have all these other things. And at Mountain View particularly, we have another building that is going to remain there. And that takes up a footprint. So it's just that, not only here, but everywhere else, you're not finding sites that are nice and flat and level. So going to a two-story school is becoming kind of the norm. It takes up a smaller footprint, and it leaves a smaller footprint, leaves more of the site to do the other things, the play fields. I think you can see from that site is that, the dark line around the perimeter there is the site itself. And we're putting a new school in a place where the play field is. So it's taken up play field, and that is an important part of the feature. So it's the bigger the footprint, the less of the other things you can put on there. Your smaller footprint, you can say, is more environmentally sensitive. When you look at the building, you talk about the size of the school or the elements of there in a rural area. We're already looking at, whether it's a two-story or one-story, we have certain elements of the gymnasium and the cafeteria. There are larger volume areas that have higher roofs in it. If you go with a one-story, yeah, you have a lower roof, but the two-story, you're still not matching the height that you have with the gymnasium. So you're already having the higher elements there with the gym. This is just extending to it. The way you work with materials, slopes of roof, windows, it helps bring that scale down. It helps create that rural feel. So I think that whether it's a rural or city area, I think you still have a good element with a two-story school.
How about consideration of children moving up and down stairs? Was that in the plan?
Well, when you look at that too, again, there's a number of classrooms on the lower level, a number of classrooms on the upper. You usually will put the lower grade levels, the kindergarten, the first graders and second graders on the lower level, and the third and fourth graders will be in the upper level. So the older kids are the ones that are going up and down.
More physical activity.
What's that?
Going up and down steps.
Yeah, it's, I think it's like a 13-foot floor-to-floor level, so you're going up 13 feet of stairs. At a home, you're going up and down stairs too. It's maybe 9 foot high, so it's just, I think it's just
I taught for
expected.
many years at the Old Choice Building, where we took our children up and down the hallways, and it worked. But for those who have handicap conditions, we have elevators, I'm sure, built into.
There's an elevator, yes.
Well, isn't the cost of doing a two-story building cheaper than one-story?
There are certain elements that make it cheaper, yes. You have less concrete footings, things like that around there, less slab. Yeah.
That's rough. Someone said to me a couple of days ago, they said, would we ever be able to get a ball field at Mountain View? Well, there is the possibility by saving some of maximizing the savings in site, that we might be able to achieve that long-awaited ball field at Mountain View Elementary. I think you've been waiting since 1950-something to get that. Yeah. But, it's and to answer your question a little further, even early learning centers today are going 2 stories, right, where you've got kids that are 4 and 5 years old. It's the sign of the times. You said you have lots of land. Well, you really don't. I mean, that's all the land you have. And to do The single story, we really have to almost add 30 or 40% more acreage to get the building in and make it work. So all these things are being considered. Principal Nelson?
Yes, and I appreciate the question because that was the first question we talked about when we got together, single story or two story. When we were looking at the architects, when they were putting up their ideas before they were selected, this is my fourth school, either expansion or complete building. The single story is very spread out and the kids are very far away from each other. And I've been in a school where it was immense and I asked the architects to please not make this huge steel and glass structure where a little 5-year-old gets scared walking down those very long hallways. So this is a little bit more intimate. Yes, they have to climb the stairs if they are able to. If they're not, there's elevator service. And also, we're looking at pods where the kindergarten has a pod, the first grade has a pod. I call it collaboratories. So there are places where they will be centrally located. And also we're moving our SPED kids all over the building so they feel like part of the whole school culture. And we've talked at length about the ideas, and this is only an adjacency plan. It is not the design at all of the school yet. This is just, what are we going to do? We have one roof versus 3 roofs. We have one set of footings versus 3 set of footings. And we're already, I already want more space. So we're looking at getting as much space. And also, we've got an obesity problem with some of our kids, and they do need to work out, and when it's raining outside, they can climb the steps every day. I include myself in that as well, so anyway. But thank you, Carla. That was one of our very first questions is, will we accept a 2-story building? I embrace the concept because it's more intimate, it's more efficient, it's more ecologically, environmentally sound, and I think it's going to make it feel more homey, more family style. I really do.
And to carry on, the same concerns went with the high school when we started out with 2 stories versus 3. One is we're trying to maximize to get the most things into the building for the education of the students versus just building square footage. But the 2-story building had 2 major drawbacks to it. We gobbled up the plaza. There was no place for the kids to, it was just corridors just to walk around buildings. We didn't think that was good for the environment for high school students, that green space and open space is very important to them. And the second thing was, in 2 stories, we would be locked into having some interior classrooms with no windows to the outside. In the 3-story version, every classroom will have natural light and windows to the outside. So when you start to look at all these issues, the going up and down, yes, there are stairs. Luckily, 9th and 12th graders probably are in a lot better shape than we think. But when you take it in, we're trying to find the best way to lay out this school to meet all the needs of the school, the students, the teachers, and provide an environment they feel safe and secure, and even more important, an environment where they want to come to school and learn. And that's the things that become important, not so much stairs, but what's around that they can really enjoy and make their learning experience better. And I know Jennifer will stand by that one. 100%.
Another piece to that is the outside light. If we go 2 floors or closer to the existing buildings, where 3 brings us in, so we get more natural light from the outside, which was a nice piece because it's kind of dungeon-like in many classrooms there now.
Go ahead.
You got the microphone right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Deb.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So first of all, I really would like to compliment the architect team for listening to the early learning program people. Yeah, you guys did a great job of listening and you reflected it on here. But my question is about the early learning program that when we met with the architects, I don't remember the figure you gave us that was earmarked for early learning, but on there, they didn't see a separate amount. They saw just an amount for Mountain View. And I don't want to throw cold water on things, but the last time we had a bond, there were cost overruns, and so Mountain View didn't get remodeled. And having been in this district a long time now, early learning has not always got what we were told we were going to get. We're the only building in the district that does not have air conditioning, and as you said, we have code problems. So I would like to know how we're going to ensure that cost overruns at the elementary school don't eat up our budget, and we, again, are left in a facility that does not have adequate heat, does not have air conditioning, has major problems with it.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
This bond is critical in many different ways, but one of the ways that it's extremely critical is our commitment to the community. We have spelled out very clearly what this bond is all about, and the Early Learning Center has been discussed. You know, it comes down to promises made, promises kept. So what we're trying to do is do exactly what we said we were going to do, not only for the current, our current situation, but in the future when we go back out in 15 or 20 years for another bond, people will remember that we did what we said we were going to do. And early learning, of course, is an extremely important program, just as important as any program in the district. As superintendent, I'm working very closely with the architects and with Robert Herron and others with the school board to monitor expenditures. We don't want a rerun of what happened in the past. And the architects and myself and the school board are very cognizant of the fact that we've communicated very clearly what's going to happen in relation to this bond. And we will make it happen. We won't deviate. Inflation is something that we're keeping an eye on in King County. That's a real issue right now. We're fortunate that that's not the case in Mason County, at least right now. But our integrity as a school district is on the line when you're dealing with $65 million and you've told the public what you're going to do with that $65 million. So rest assured that what we said
Is there an earmarked amount?
Pardon?
Is there an earmarked
What do we
amount
have?
for early
Do we
learning?
have
I don't have my book with me, but I'm
You
going to...
did tell us when we met, I remember.
I think we had something like, and don't hold me to the numbers, but $1.5 million program just for modernization of the annex.
Yeah.
Now, again, we're not doing it the outside.
Since the very beginning, we laid out a scope for that space. We've actually expanded the scope further from what was initially in there. So one of the things that initially were not going to do anything but upgrade the mechanical system, the heating in there, and we were not identifying, air conditioning, cooling specifically. And since then, we've expanded that as part of the scope to identify the cooling that's in there, as well as consolidating more out there by bringing out the additional portables and everything. So we're really partnering with the entire program, keeping out and moving forward with the district's long-term plan there and bringing that all together comprehensively. So I think as this unfolds, you'll be excited at the attention that we're giving it to, and we'll stay in communication with the program and everybody that's in it. So.
With the architects, you guys did a great job listening to us, and we really appreciated the time you took in taking a tour, because when you guys first came in, you were talking about making our classrooms smaller, and we said, no, that's not what we want. So I really appreciate that you listened to us. So I'm glad to hear that it is a commitment that the district has, because this is something that is near and dear to our hearts, and I just don't want to see vestibules at other schools go over cost and then we get nothing, because it's intolerable to teach in there without air conditioning.
One of the things that I've asked Jeff to do this week, that's very important, is that in the month of September, I would appreciate the architects going to each school and updating the staff the total staff in each school, where we are, where we're going, making sure that as we move through this process in a rather methodical way, that there are no surprises. You know, there may be challenges and obstacles, but no great surprises for the staff. You know, we've said to the staff these things are going to happen, and so we need to make sure that every month we communicate to the staff, we communicate to the public, not only through these means, but in every way possible, so that we're all on the same page. And if something comes up, it's, you know, everybody's going to understand how we're dealing with it and where we're going with the challenge that might be at hand. But in general, and we've been real clear, the board has been real clear, for example, on safety and security for each building. In one of Jeff's meetings, he reports to the board the first meeting of every month. The board was very clear, along with myself, that every school needs to be dealt with equitably in terms of safety and security. And I'm very happy to hear our architects talk about safety and security and what's going to happen in our buildings. When we promoted the bond, we said safety and security was priority one. And having a 21st century teaching and learning environment, that was something that was very important. And having facilities that support a 21st century teaching and learning environment. And if you've listened this evening, those three things are intact as we move forward. But I look at this like a 4-stage rocket. There's fire coming out of the engines right now, but we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go, and I kind of like that because we can involve more people in the process as we move forward. We have a lot of work to do. This is a very important project, but what's important to me as a superintendent, and I know it is for our board, that the community is well aware of what's going on every step of the way, and we're going to make sure that that happens along with the staff. Thank you.
Okay, there's a couple more questions. This young lady here.
Looking at the Mountain View site plan there, so the existing building, that means you're tearing down the second grade annex as well as the play shed and everything that was behind there currently.
Correct. I think that, you know, those are not needed as much as the main part of the school. But also, if you look at, you know, the parking lot and where the new school will sit, by taking out those buildings, it would kind of open it up better and allow the visibility of the new school so you can see that much better. But yeah, those are intended to be taken off.
But that's not playground space at all, that's not secure space.
Well, what exactly goes on there once it's gone, once those buildings are gone, is kind of up in the air. You know, what the existing building is going to be used for is kind of unknown. You know, we've got the edge of the parking lot and the student drop-off over there, so there is an area of space, but is that playfield area? I don't necessarily see it being playfield, but some sort of, you know, maybe a plaza or entry to the new building. Again, the visibility is the main thing, but I think you want the play area itself to kind of be behind the school, a little bit more secured from the front road.
And maybe just a comment, maybe not a ball field, maybe a track. Make it run.
We're still in that idea phase because see the next time we come together, and I know that Dr. Apostle would like to do this on a monthly basis for a while to keep the community involved. We might want to make the next one 2 months out because I'd like to be able to have the architects come in with the first set of floor plans, the first elevation, where you actually start to see these things develop. And by then we would also have our first set of costs where we can say, you know, what are we looking at budgets and what we might have to do. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to go through to take these concepts and to try and make them work. And that's going to be a difficult thing. We're in a tough bidding market. I work for several school districts, but in King County, we started out with 12% inflationary costs added on to all our estimates. We've consumed that, and now the estimators are telling us to add 15 to 20% more. So we're talking about having to cut programs by 30% to make budgets. That's huge. Mason County is not that bad. We have lower labor rates down here than King County. We have smaller contracts in the Olympia, Aberdeen, Centralia, part of Tacoma area that don't compete in the King County market. But we still have to be really cognizant of every dollar. When it comes time to bid, we have to take the low bidder, and if they're significantly over the budget, we can't accept it and the projects die, because that's the rules that we have to work with in the state. So these development plans from here on out now start to get tougher, and the details become tougher, and there's going to be give and take, and we don't know what that give and take is, but we want to make sure that when we bid it, we have a chance to build it, because we can have 7, 8 sets of plans sitting on the shelf in Dr. Fossil's office and nothing going on in the site. When we get this all going, and I say when because I believe we're going to do it, remember, we're going to have 3 contractors working on these sites. There'll be 1 contractor for this site, for Mountain View and Olympic, 1 at the high school and the junior high, and 1 at Choice and Evergreen, and also be picking up Bordeaux. For a year and a half, it's going to be a mess in the Shelton School District. and there will be difficulties because, yes, we will lose covered play areas and we will lose certain things, but we have to work with what we've got and make it work. Once we get it done, we can put all those things back into play, and then we can start stabilizing the schools again. So expect that summer of 18 to the September of 19 is going to be difficult while we're putting this stuff up.
I have 2 questions. For transportation, for the special needs load zone at the annex, is there still going to be one built in there, or will they push it toward the back of the school with all the rest of the buses?
Haven't quite got into that design yet, but I know we're going to be working with all of the early learning teachers, and we'll figure that out.
We can't fix the back of the building.
Right.
We're going to have a drop
Yeah.
where we have it now.
And that's something that, when you get out there and look, it's, you got some roadway right here.
There'll be less buses.
And how that works. One of the things that we're doing to minimize spending money that we don't put into education is we're going to use all the existing curb cuts just exactly as they exist. That's very important, because if we have to do that, that money just comes out of building costs. So everything that we do, remember, we want to focus on getting those spaces for the kids, but we still have to provide access, and that's the second thing, and security. So if we get those 3 things done, then we'll figure out what's left. But that's the important stuff.
And then my second question is, when you build the student drop-off, will it go out to L Street, which is a dirt road, or will they continue to use Laurel Street?
Well, right now, all the buses will come in here, pick up the kids, come back out, and they'll be here on K Street.
For parent.
I'm sorry?
For parent drop-off.
Parent drop-off will come in off of K Street, come up around here, and you can come out this exit on the Laurel Street and down, or you can move back through and come out here. We haven't decided yet whether it's going to be one way.
Right now, we're still using that one exit that goes off onto that street. We're not, the street stops there. We'd like not to have to increase the street at all because of cost, so, yeah.
I will tell you.
What do you want?
I will add this to your question. We've already shown this to the city, and because the city was concerned about 2 things. One was parking, which we had planned to add more parking. 2 was congestion, buses and parents and kids. Those are being separated. They are excited that we're not adding any more curb cuts and fighting more access or entrance and exits to K Street. So the city is really excited about this. The city is also really excited about working with the district. We've set up bi-weekly meetings with the city to help them. They know they're going to get, I'm going to expect that your set of drawings is going to be 300-400 sheets. And Steve's is going to be 300 sheets or more. And when you dump in 6 volumes this thick of specifications, cost estimates, and 600-700 sheets of drawings on the city of Shelton and say, we want a permit in 2 months, it's not going to happen. So we've engaged the city already. They're going to be coming to some of our meetings. We're going to meet with them bi-weekly. And we're going to work with them through the stages so that when these come in, they know what's happening. They're also going to get the schematic designs packages and the design development packages and have meetings with the architects so that they can go one-on-one with the architects and get in tune with what we're doing, so there's no shock when the building plans come in to get a permit. They're going to know exactly what we're doing. So the city is on board, and the city is taking a look at this stuff, and we talked to them about a year ago, and they said, you know, I will echo what we said earlier. We talked to them, we listened to their concerns, we brought them in the site plan, and they said, oh, you did hear us. So, I mean, these are the things we want to do with all of our teams, is to make sure we're listening to everybody. We've got constraints of budget. 65 million sounds like an enormous amount of money. If I had 65 million, I'd probably only work another 2 or 3 years. And I could afford to retire. But schools today are extremely expensive. I know one of our architects here is just designed a new high school, which I think is about $240 million.
It's a big high school.
Yeah, but it's a big high school. If you remember during the bond, we told that when we started out, we said, you know, to replace Shelton High School in total would cost $120 million. To throw in Mountain View, another $25 million. To do the things we need to do, that we would need about $175 million to start putting the Shelton School District at the A level. Well, we've got 65. And we're going to spend that money as wisely as we can to elevate the education system at Shelton. And, you know, that's what we do. If we had 100 million or 200 million, we could do a heck of a lot more. And I just want, I don't want people to forget that we really are going, we're on a shoestring, to be quite honest. And it's a lot of money for Shelton, and thank God you guys all voted for this. But it's going to be tight. But we're all committed, each team is committed to deliver what we've got to do. And I think the principals and the staff understand that we may have to make some, you know, tweaks in the things if we have to. But so far, we're trending okay. Questions?
Was there going to be any improvements for safety and security at Shelton High School with the other schools getting all those things going on?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the new building part, but the old buildings, are they going to do anything?
Yeah, Shelton is unique because it's an open campus. The new building will be secure like anything else and going on. The difficulty with is how do you secure the sub, because you got kids going in and out. We can secure the pack. We're looking at, and Glenn's not here, he's on vacation, we're looking at what can we do with hardware, electronic hardware on doors, and how can we get those doors locked? When you look at that open campus, about the only way you can secure it now is with chain link fence and razor wire around the outside. That kind of takes away from the aesthetics of the new building. And so we've got to look at what can we do with technology and electronics on that open campus. And Glenn is looking at that right now. So, yes, sir.
So I appreciate the scope of where the money can go, as far as it can go, that helps. question about, we're designing a new school. How long do you figure it will last the way it might get built before it needs to have serious repairs? So that comes down to materials used, lifespan of the building. You're talking about value, the scope helps, but what's the best value for lifespan?
The very quick, short answer is the Office of the Public Superintendent, State OSPI, Superintendent for Public Instruction. Their bottom line standard is all buildings for schools have to maintain or last for 30 years. They generally go beyond that. That is the criteria that all the architects have to design to, and their selection of materials and everything else is 30-year lifetime. Generally, they go beyond that. Robert knows that the key to this is good maintenance and keeping things painted, and when something breaks or something goes bad, you get it repaired. And so we look at schools that, what's the age of the one we were looking at the other day, 1937? 1937, and the school is still functioning, and they're saying, gee, we ought to get a bond and build something new. Yeah, but they took care of their building, and in 1937, there were no standards to build them for 30 years. Well, so yeah, we expect these buildings to last 30 plus years at a minimum, and if they're well taken care of, beyond that.
Something that's really important in relation to your question is that we're in the process right now of developing a strategic plan in terms of maintenance and operations. In other words, we're going to look out 15, 20 years in terms of what we need to be doing to maintain our buildings. That's a key component, as Jeff mentioned, how you're going to take care of your buildings. And the community has invested in the school district, and we have a responsibility to maintain those schools with a regular maintenance plan. That always has not been the case in the past, but I can guarantee you that we are moving in that direction as we speak here.
Any other questions? Gosh, you've been so efficient, we're ahead of time. We got 10 more minutes to kill. Go ahead.
Will Mountain View have opening windows or doors to the outside on the first level?
We're still at 20,000 feet. We don't know whether they open or not.
Okay.
Usually that's a district kind of standard, whether they want operable windows or not. I hear that they're putting operable windows at some of the other schools, so that might be the case. But, you know, we're putting in air conditioning and things like that, and how that balances with operable windows is always important. But usually that's a district level standard that whether they are or not, it sounds like we are going with operable windows. So.
If I could expand a little bit on that. We're adding pilot swimming boys like. Okay. Currently, we don't have a standard, but what the issue that we have, why we're adding them at Shelton High School is because, of course, the age of the building and when it was designed, we didn't have fresh air exchanges, and we didn't understand the importance at that time of how having the ability to have clean, fresh air. I know it sounds stupid and says environment, but yes, clean, fresh air helps to reduce allergens. It helps to keep the transmission of diseases down and all these things, and it creates a better learning environment. So Shelton High School, the windows do not operate. They don't have the HVAC systems that our new buildings have. The rooms are stale, so that's why we're adding the windows there so we can get more fresh air exchanges and have a healthier, better environment. As far as other buildings, they would be, we'll go through the process of cost and analysis, but the new Mountain View School will have significant fresh air exchanges from the HVAC system that's constantly bringing in tempered outside air, and so whether your window operates or not, you'll have a much, much better air environment that's there. So I don't want to necessarily commit at this point that we will, because it is not necessarily a standard of the district, the new buildings will have them, but it's something that we will identify, and if it's the right move to make and it works within our budget, we will do that.
And a new energy code, which is now in force, has changed the way that consultants have to design the HVAC systems dramatically. Systems that are being proposed for Mountain View and Shelton High School addition will be totally different than all the other systems that currently exist. There are pluses and minuses for those systems. One, your maintenance staff's got to relearn how to handle all those systems. But two, there's a secondary benefit of those new systems that provides the air conditioning at a very low cost. The days of having a big chiller and a big boiler are kind of going away. The energy code won't support it. And if you did try to meet the energy code, you'd fill up these rooms with ducts and you'd have no room for classes with chairs and desks. So there's so much going on right now in design and how it's going to be impacted in the building. But the windows will be part of that energy study. We have to do that. And to meet the code, which is, you can't build until you meet the code. So if it deems that the windows need to be closed, that's case A. If we can make it work and still meet the code, then you can have operable windows. But those are the things that we'll know in probably 3 months. How good are you looking at that? We're 3 months out before we have something like that.
It's got to be told by Robert.
Yeah? We'll figure it out. Anything else? Brendan?
Oh, I was just going to tag on to something, Gail. You were concerned about the money. I lived through that Mountain View. You didn't get your new school thing when we did that. Bids came in higher, and I can assure you, we're meeting every Wednesday with every architect, every week. The principals are there, the architect's there, Jeff's there, Andrea's there, I'm there. And we are checking that budget every week. Jeff and I are working on it today again. We have spreadsheets for every project, and we're monitoring it. I personally, because of what I saw happen last time, don't want that to happen again. So I'm keeping an eye on it. We all are. So we're going to make sure all these projects we promised the taxpayers are going to happen this time, one way or the other. So I just wanted to share that with you because we are cognizant of what's going on there. So, okay.
Good. Anything else? Bill says, Bill's on vacation, and he's going sailing for 2 weeks, so he can't wait to get out of here. Dr. Boswell, closing statement?
Just one last comment. I want to clarify something that Jeff said. My confidence in passing the bond never wavered, ever. I was very focused on passing the bond. Whatever needed to be done, we were going to do it. But he was right in one sense. We did this in a relatively short period of time. I mean, it was a real short period of time. And when Jeff said we were going to do it, I said, "Are you sure, Jeff?" I said, "There's a lot of work to be done." He said, "We'll get it done." And I said, "Okay, let's do it." But at no time did I question whether this community would step up to the plate and do what needed to be done. We did it. And we should all be very proud and very happy and continue to work together for the benefit of our community and our children. This is a big step, folks. I mean, we're reconfiguring our schools. I mean, just think about that. The entire system is going to be different in the fall of 2019. And when I said earlier that we're going to take a look at our instructional program to make sure it's effective and efficient, we're doing it. And not many school districts, quite frankly, do that kind of work. So I'm very excited. Basically, it's a transformation of our school district. And what made it happen is you, the community. You are making this happen. If it didn't pass, we wouldn't be talking about these things in terms of facilities. That's one thing. But we would not be able to move our ninth graders to the high school. We would not have smaller class size in our elementaries. And in a district our size, we should not have a middle school and a junior junior high, the way it was comprised in the past. So we have great opportunities to do the very best for our children, and we're going to make it happen. Is it a lot of work? Absolutely. This is just the beginning, believe it or not. So we're all focused and ready to go. It's great having our architects in place, and with Jeff and Robert and Brenda and the entire board, we're ready to win. And we're going to win big in the fall of 2019. Thank you. Thank you for being here.